Robert and Molli Potter were desperate as they searched for a hospital to care for their soon-to-be-born premature son Cullen. 16 institutions refused to accept such a risky case, but the Potters knew deep down that this was a mistake. For Robert and Molli, 32, the road to parenthood hadn't been easy. The couple living in Pensacola, Florida had a 7-year-old son named Caden, but Molli had also suffered a pair of miscarriages trying to add to their family. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. In 2018, Molli discovered she was expecting again. However, it became clear that this pregnancy was just as fragile as the last two. She started bleeding 3 months into gestation, and her doctors prescribed bed rest because of her past miscarriages. But Molli's condition deteriorated. Not only did the bleeding increase, but she began having labor pains. This development was scary enough, but it was even worse considering she hadn't even reached the 24-week benchmark in her pregnancy. After around 6 months of gestation, a baby's chance of survival increases. However, doctors informed the Potters that if their son came before 24 weeks, there was only a 2% chance he'd live. This is because vital organs haven't yet had the time to develop sufficiently. This was terrifying news for the couple. Molli told Inside Edition, "I was like, he can't come yet, he's too small. We didn't know if he was going to live or die. Every day was waiting to see if we could make it to the next day." But there was even more pressure on the Potters. Their hometown hospital told the family that if Cullen came before the 24-week mark, they wouldn't be able to save him. That spurred Robert to call other healthcare facilities in search of options and better odds. According to the Washington Post, Robert called more than a dozen hospitals asking, "Can you help babies born under 24 weeks?" But he was rejected by 16 facilities because they didn't admit babies that premature. The probability they wouldn't survive was too high. However, Robert refused to take no as an answer, and as luck would have it, he got an encouraging response from the University of South Alabama Children's and Women's Hospital. Although the healthcare center was 70 miles from the Potters' home, it would be worth the drive. That's because the hospital said they could admit Molli and perform the emergency C-section she needed to deliver baby Cullen. The staff had cared for babies just as young as he could be if he arrived extra early. Renee Rogers was the manager of the University of South Alabama Children's and Women's Hospital's neonatal intensive care unit. She said, "We've helped small babies born at 21 or 22 weeks for over a decade. The preemie survival rate for babies that age is 68%, much better than the 2% odds quoted to the Potters by other hospitals." Robert and Molli headed to Mobile, Alabama, where she checked into the hospital. Doctors observed the mom to be for 5 days. They then discovered a life-threatening condition that would necessitate an emergency C-section. Molli's placenta had detached from her uterine wall, which could cause her to hemorrhage and cut off baby Cullen's oxygen supply. The mother-to-be protested as she didn't want her baby to come too early, but the medical team had no other choice. All of the Potters' trepidation dissipated, at least momentarily, when Cullen came into the world. The 22-week-old baby let out a cry that Robert described as the most beautiful sound ever. He then told Molli, "That's our son. He's going to be okay. He's going to make it." Of course, little Cullen wasn't down of the woods yet. He weighed only 13.9 ounces, and his weak organs and fragile skin meant he couldn't be held for 4 weeks after he was born. Plus, doctors had previously told Molli and Robert that if he did make it, he would probably be disabled somehow. But the Potters didn't give up on Cullen, nor did the nurses and doctors at the USA Children's and Women's Hospital. However, even with his great care, Molli struggled emotionally with the enormity of the situation. But she told the Washington Post, "What kept me going was just knowing that Cullen needed me." After 6 months of commuting from Florida to Alabama to see Cullen, the Potters had finally reached the light at the end of the tunnel. Their baby was strong enough to come home. Though he will receive additional oxygen for several months as a safety measure, doctors expect him to grow up healthy. To commemorate the preemie's against all odds survival, the staff put on a quirky celebration. Graduation from the neonatal intensive care unit. Cullen's primary care nurse, Jewel Barber, carried him in a cap and gown through the ward. Molly had purchased it from Build-A-Bear Workshop as the mortar board was too big. August 21, 2018 was a proud day for Molly. Now she was the parent proudly dressing up her son for his little ceremony, thanking the staff who saved her. To see him look like a real baby and act like a real baby and being able to go home, it just didn't feel real, she told Inside Edition. With the entire Potter family in one place, Robert and Molly had made it their mission to inspire other parents in similar situations not to give up. Molly said, "Cullen has proved the technology is out there. The reason is out there. We encourage other parents in our position, a high risk or not, definitely get with your hospital and find out what they can and can't do." If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.